Hello, yellers. Welcome back to Why Am I Yelling? Musings from a middle-aged menopausal mom. I'm your host, Krista Rizzo, and Happy New Year. Yellers, I really wanted to kick off this year sooner with a podcast and with a more positive outlook, but I have got to say 2026 is not shaping up to be better than 2025 so far in a variety of ways. I'm really sorry. I wanted to put out an episode sooner, but at the end of last year, I decided to take a little break, get through the holidays, whatever. We were unfortunately hit with a few unexpected losses. We were all trying to avoid the illness that was going around rampantly all over the place. We had the holidays to get through. And now we have been dealt, snowpocalypse. If you live anywhere on, the right side of the United States, not the left side of the United States, when you're looking at a map, you know that most of us have gotten hit with ice and snow and terrible weather in the last week. So, that's what's been going on. And then, of course, there's the insane shit that is happening in the United States right now. Like, what is actually happening? So, rather than bring you an upbeat, happy new year, la 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 kind of episode, I thought we should just dig right in, because this is too important of a time in our history to gloss over. And in fact, if anyone is glossing over what is happening right now in the world, you need to stop sitting on the sidelines and get into this fight. And we're going to talk about how to do that later on in this conversation, because that's important too. And if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, but I want to do something and I'm not sure and all the things, I got your back, boo. Don't worry. So if you haven't figured it out by now, today we are talking about a moment in the news cycle that feels less like current events and more like someone yanked open the universe's worst headlines folder and said, here you go. Here's the worst shit that could possibly happen. And we're witnessing it with our own eyes. And you've probably seen some of it, the clips, the names, the outrage, the disbelief. 2 Americans, both 37 years old, both shot and killed in Minneapolis in incidents involving federal immigration agents, or ICE, as we are referring to them. And that has sparked a movement and outrage across the globe, right? There are countries out here calling this, terrorism, domestic terrorism by our own, administration. It's crazy what's happening right now. And the 2 people that, we are highlighting in this moment, because we're going to continue this, are Renée Good and Alex Pretti. And they were both murdered in broad daylight by uneducated and undertrained ICE agents wielding guns. That is a fact. It is on video for all the world to see. We have seen them. We all know the truth. And while the feelings of anger and jaw-dropping disbelief and horror that sit with us, Renée and Alex are not the first ones to die at the hands of ICE in the last year, whether by forced violence or lack of medical care. There are more. There are 9 more, in fact, and they deserve to be talked about. They deserve to be honored. And so I'm going to tell you their names and tell you how they died, because I think that's important. It's important for us to talk about Alex and Renée, obviously, because they have sparked this outrage. But Keith Porter was a 43-year-old man who was shot and killed by an off-duty ICE agent in Los Angeles in December on New Year's Eve, right? Renée Good, we just talked about her. Shiraz Fateli Shawani died on December 6th at a Texas hospital, right? A lot of these people didn't die at the hand of gun violence. They died at the hand of lack of medical care because they were in ICE detention centers and didn't get transported in time for medical care. Or they got transported in time to go to the hospital, but didn't make it because they hadn't had medical care, right? So that's Shiraz Fateli Shawani on December 6th. Pete Sumalu Montejo on December 5th in Texas in a hospital. Francisco Gaspar Andres on December 3rd, 2025, in a Texas hospital. You feeling like the Texas theme here, right? Kai Yin Wong on October 25th, 2025, in San Antonio in a hospital. Victor Manuel Diaz in January 2026 died in custody at camp in East Montana in an ICE detention camp. Chao Feng Ji on August 25th, he was an ICE detainee, died in a detainee camp. Tien Fan, July 19th, also an ICE detainee. Isidro Perez, ICE detainee on June 26th. And Johnny Noviello on June 23rd, 2025, was also an ICE detainee who died in an ICE detention camp. Along with Renee and Alex, that is 11 people. 11 human beings since June of 2025 who have been murdered by the federal government. So, what happened and why does it make us stare at the news like it personally offends us? Right? The basics. January 7th, an ICE agent shot and killed Renee Good in Minneapolis. A few weeks later, on January 24th, federal agents again fired their weapons in broad daylight, killing Alex Pretti. He was an ICU nurse who witnesses say was trying to help people nearby when he was pepper sprayed, pinned down, and shot multiple times. Both deaths have sparked protests, citywide outrage, and national debate. And the official narrative from the Department of Homeland Security has been sharply contested by bystander video, eyewitness testimony, and family statements. The government is lying and gaslighting to us, right? So if that doesn't make you go, what are we even doing? Then I don't know what to tell you. But if it does, welcome to this episode. So why does this hurt so much? And I think here's the thing, right? First off, our bodies are not built to sustain all of this trauma. Having to deal with our regular stressful lives should be enough, right? And then we see violence happening in our streets to our neighbors, and, it cripples us. We're watching the news for information, but sometimes, a lot of times, especially now, it delivers something deeper, more, it dredges up feelings, right? There's all kinds of feelings that are coming with this, right? There's a clash between what we think our country stands for and what we see happening right in front of our eyes, because we know that what is happening in front of our eyes is not normal and it should not be happening. 2 people shot and killed on public streets, both American, both U.S. citizens, under circumstances that are still being disputed, quote unquote. Their families, ready for this, urging people to watch the videos themselves. I mean, think about it for a second. Can you imagine saying, please watch my loved one be murdered? They are begging us to watch the videos from bystanders and for us to trust our own eyes. That is a challenge, right? It's to look and to not turn away, and it's heavy, right? It's not just another headline. It is a challenge to our collective story about justice, fairness, and community. And then, of course, there is the language that swirls around it, right? The labels, the official explanations that sometimes sound defensive, sometimes evasive, sometimes almost like political talking points rather than human tragedies coming from the higher ups, from the administration. And I think that's the part that hits the nerve. There's a lack of humanity because it's not abstract anymore, right? It's 11 people's lives. It causes a visceral reaction in some of us, especially when the official story and the public's understanding are complete opposites, right? When we have an official story, when I say the story that's coming out of the White House is different than what we are seeing in public, it is causing us to have visceral reactions because we are built for the truth, right? And we are not born with hate. We're not born to hate other people. We're not born with hate in our hearts. We are taught that. And it is unfathomable to most people how there is an entire government surrounding lying right now about humanity. Like I am not often at a loss for words. And believe me, I'm really not at a loss for words, but it just makes you want to throw a mug at the wall. So let's be honest. World events often feel far away until they actually hit home. But this one, it isn't far away in metaphor, right? It is a city street. It is someone filming with their phone, and it's people trying to help someone else. It is literally something that you see every single day in your own streets, right? People talking to each other, someone asking for directions. There are protests happening, whether they are small in volume and numbers in our own hometowns, or large across the country, when people are marching down streets of cities. Right? And this is where my yelling starts, right? Not because we're being dramatic, right? We're not being dramatic by this, but because we are human. And we're seeing something that unsettles us deeply. Something that does not add up. Something that feels like a mismatch between ideals and reality. This isn't yelling in a vacuum. It's yelling because we care, right? Because we feel for the families, because we feel for our communities who are being affected, because something about this feels wrong on both a personal and societal level. There is another part of this that makes people yell, quote unquote, yell, and it's quieter but sharper. And that is the silence. Not from the everyday people who are overwhelmed and scared and trying to get through the week. They are the people who are actually showing up and yelling the loudest. I am talking about people of influence. The ones with platforms and followings and microphones, book deals, brands, pulpits, blue check marks. Those people. The ones who comment on everything until the moment gets too complicated for them. I'm looking at you, George Clooney. When something like this happens, something like this in the world happens, and influential voices say nothing, that silence stands loudly. It doesn't feel neutral. It feels like a choice. There's a person that I follow on Instagram. His name is Therapy Jeff. I love him because he calls people out, and he talks about real stuff in real time and how it really does, react on our bodies, on ourselves, on our psyches, on our minds. And he's just a really good person to follow. So follow Therapy Jeff. He's got more followers than I do, right? But he posted on his page a video the other day about spiritual influencers, and he called out Jay Shetty and Mel Robbins specifically for staying silent and for continuing to post, their positive affirmations that they always do and their advice about, staying grounded and protecting your peace. But they're not offering real ways to do that. And I am fully aware of the arguments that come up, right? It's too political for me. I'm still learning about what's going on. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to lose any followers. I don't want to piss off my friends Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg. But guess what? Your privilege in that situation is sparkling like the biggest diamond ring you've ever seen, right? When you avoid the hard stuff. This is hard fucking stuff. And that's why people of influence need to speak up and speak out, right? The truth is, silence from people with power doesn't read as caution. It reads as comfort with the status quo. It reads as protecting access, reputation, or audience over people, right? They care about their followers. They care about all the things. And they're not stepping out and saying, this is bad. what is happening is bad. And there are a lot of them who are. So kudos to you, whoever is doing it. But there are a lot of them who are not. You do not need a perfect statement. You don't need a dissertation. Sometimes all it takes is acknowledgement. Acknowledging that something is wrong, that lives were lost, that questions deserve answers, and that there needs to be accountability. It's not that hard. And if you have influence, your voice doesn't have to inflame, but it should not disappear. If you are listening and feeling disappointed by people you once trusted to speak up, you're not imagining it. That letdown is real. Naming it is not mean, it is honest. And, you are on notice, people of influence, people out there with all the followers and all the check marks and all the platforms. Look at the people who you have contributed to their wealth. Like, think about that, right? There are people that you follow who you have contributed to their wealth. You have bought their products. You have went and seen their movies. You listen to their podcasts. However, whichever way you support them, you are contributing to their wealth. They haven't said one word out loud to address these atrocities. It doesn't mean that they're not supporting things behind the scenes, right? I also want to say that too, right? I'm not sure about anything, right? I'm not sure about what these people are doing, what these influencers are doing, what these celebrities or people of general public facing ability are doing behind the scenes. I don't know if they're doing anything. Sometimes you hear that they have donated to communities, that they are being very generous behind the scenes, and that's lovely. But maybe one post that says this is wrong would go further or would go far or would be helpful. Speak up, right? We want to be connected to people who we know are like us, who we know that what's happening, who they know and we all know that what is happening is wrong. That's all we want. That's all we are looking for. And I think it's really important to say that out loud. And that's why Therapy Jeff says that, right? It's important for you to say it out loud. Your followers are your likes are not more important than another human being's life. And this is an argument that we've been having since the dawn of time, when gun violence, started all those years ago, and their moms have been yelling on the streets about, stricter gun laws and all the things. And now we have an administration who wanted to give everybody the ability to carry guns. And when this man who was on the street, who had a registered firearm holstered on his person, wasn't brandishing it, didn't have it out, wasn't showing it to the world, is assassinated by the government who believes in guns, they're now saying, oh, you shouldn't have guns. The hypocrisy is deafening. Like, it's insane. I just don't understand. I don't understand. And there's so much to say. There's so much, right? And I could talk about this for hours upon hours upon hours, I'm sure, right? I'm going to talk about this in just a second, but I had the privilege of being on a call the other night with a bunch of moms who are mobilizing to take action. And they are moms of influence. Shannon Watts and Reshma was on there, and the Move On people were on there. And I'm thinking about all these organizations who are on there, and I know I'm going to forget a lot of them. Red, Wine, and Blue, right? We were all on here talking about how we can help, but also how we can hold it together. And as a life coach, it's my job to make sure that we are addressing what we need to address, but we are also using tools for ourselves to be able to hold it together without burning all the way the fuck out, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And if you are even marginally plugged in, it's a lot. But if you are sucked down the rabbit hole of doom, like a lot of us are, it is too much. It's traumatic. And I don't use the word trauma or trigger or any of those words lightly, right? Because they're overused, but in this case, it is traumatic. And so how we're going to go through multiple ways to kind of help yourself and help others when we find ourselves in a news cycle that is breaking our heart and bringing out all the feels. And the first thing is, care, but set boundaries for yourself, right? Two things can be true at the same time. You can be angry and sad and overwhelmed and also still be in awe of the beauty right outside your window. And right now mine is a snow-filled winter wonderland. Remembering the people. I think this is very important, right? Continue to say their names because their stories matter. And the more we say their names and the more we get comfortable with the uncomfortable, Renée Good and Alex Pretti, they were more than news events. They were people's loved ones and friends and family and coworkers. There are people, not just societally who are grieving. There are people that knew them personally who have lost everything. That's important. Remember the people. Don't lose your humanity over this. Remember the people. Rest when it weighs you down. You can take a break because caring deeply doesn't mean living in constant outrage. Although some of us do live in constant outrage, and I don't really know what to say about that. But it means staying informed, right? In a way that protects your heart and your mind, right? So when you say their names and learn their stories, right? Understand who they were and what their legacy means, right? Sharing accurate information, not rumors that are kind of floating around out there on the interwebs. Correct people when you see misinformation. Just because you didn't know them doesn't mean that you shouldn't respect them and honor them and make sure that the truth is being told about them. Visibility is a form of respect. Support families and communities directly, right? Donating to verified GoFundMe pages for families or memorial funds, good thing, right? Supporting local mutual aid groups, especially right now in Minnesota and Minneapolis. Standwithminnesota.com has tons of excellent resources on there for you to just go on very easily, very quickly, all standwithminnesota.com, and you're in. Amazing. Right? Contributing to legal defense funds or civil rights organizations like the ACLU or MoveOn.org or, places in your local community or in the Minnesota local community where you can help bring justice for these people, right? Money is not the only way to help, but it does help remove real barriers for people in crisis, right? It could help pay a bill. It could help, put food on a table. Speaking of that kind of stuff, if you're considering doing that on a national level for people in Minnesota right now, also showing up locally is important too. And sometimes that feels small. It's like, I'm not doing enough. I feel like I need to do more. I get it. I understand. I feel it the same way. Like, I feel like I need to jump on a plane and go join a protest in Minneapolis because that's just me. Meanwhile, there's 17 feet of snow on the ground here. There's 17 feet of the snow on the ground. Like, where the logistics there just don't make sense in my brain. But also I would love to be there if I could be there. But you don't have to fly all the way across the country for it to matter. There is stuff going on in our own communities across the world where we can show up and express ourselves and be connected to people who share the same sentiment. And that goes a long way because a lot of times you feel lonely in this endeavor, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm sure that all the stuff that I share on social media, people are sick of. I'm sure of it. And I appreciate that you're still with me because I haven't lost followers of all, not many of you, but whatever. One counts. Every single one of you counts, right? But I think it's important. And if it's important to me, I want to share it. And I'm hoping that even if just one person is impacted by a suggestion or a tool or a resource that I'm sharing, or just this releasing of the ideas or thoughts of words out of my mouth today, then I've done my job, right? And so don't think that you're doing things on a small level when you're doing things like sharing other people's posts or attending protests and peaceful vigils in your community. I keep wanting to say visuals. Attending peaceful vigils in your community, right? They're happening all the time on I live in a small town, and there is always somebody at the stop sign, the stoplight, the traffic light in the center of town holding up a sign for peace. Always. Supporting local immigrant advocacy groups. They exist everywhere in all communities, right? Asking your city officials what policies exist around federal enforcement cooperation. I sit on my school board, and we have had these conversations about what happens if ICE walks into our schools. These are conversations that your local communities are having. Be a part of it. Join your local political organization and find out what is actually happening in your communities. Go to your city council meetings, your town council meetings, your board of selectmen meetings. Go to those meetings. Speak out in public comment. Local pressure is often where change actually begins. On to my next one. Call, write, email, DM, I don't care how you get in touch with them, your elected officials. This matters more than you think, right? And I'm going to tell you how I know that. And you already know that if you've listened to me or follow me or know all the things, you know that I have worked on political campaign in the past. And anytime I have had a conversation with somebody who is a candidate or an elected official, the conversation sometimes goes to hearing from constituents. That's us, the people who vote. We are the constituents. And these elected officials or people who are running for elected office, the candidates, often say it is so important for us to hear from everybody in our community, whether they agree with what I want to do or disagree with what I want to do, whether our politics don't align or our politics do align. It's important for us to hear from people about what they want, about what's important to them, about why they're yelling, quote unquote, because that helps them understand what is happening in your house. They can only talk about what's going on in their house. They don't know what's going on in your house unless you tell them. You tell them that your bills are too high. You tell them that the groceries are this. You tell them that your farms are suffering. You have to tell them. You have to tell them that you want ICE to be abolished, that you don't want people being shot in our streets. You have to tell them. And it doesn't matter if you know them personally like I do. Oh, they know what I know and how I feel. But I still make those calls, and I still share their things, and I still send them DMs, and I do all of these things because I know how important it is. And it's so easy to do. There are scripts that you can find out oh, by the way, you never talk to a real human being. You're leaving a message and you're reading off of a script and you're telling these people, stop funding ICE. Demand transparency and accountability from them. Ask for independent investigations. Request clear policies around federal agent conduct. You don't have to write or say you can literally read a script that is provided by so many organizations right now. And it's easy to do. Please do it. This one is very near and dear to my heart, and I might cry, but I'm going to try not to. And it is supporting journalists who are doing real work. I cannot tell you, as the wife of a journalist, how difficult it is to live in a 24/7 news cycle. Words cannot adequately express how hard it is to have no choice but to be in the know all the time. There are so many journalists out there doing great work, digging into the details, learning, educating the public. And then there are others who are spreading propaganda and creating false narratives in an effort to further divide us as a society. There is an agenda there. Do not be fooled. I am begging of you to be wise enough to know the difference, to take 5 minutes to dig into a story or an issue that you are concerned about or that you want to know more about or that you have an interest in, and to understand the truth. What has been so fascinating to me in the last, couple of weeks and even months is to see that people of influence on the other side of the aisle changing course. Right? We are seeing Republican leaders step down or step aside. Most recently, the man who was running for governor in Minnesota, he dropped out of the race. He's running as a Republican. He dropped out of the race because he doesn't, quote unquote, doesn't recognize his party anymore. Marjorie Taylor Greene? I mean, if this was not on my bingo card for 2025 and going into 2026, but Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking against the atrocities, and that is because they all know the truth. A certain very, very popular podcaster, who I will not even say his name, who has now shifted gears, who had his hand in influencing his demographic into voting for what is actually happening right now, who is actually fucking around and finding out about the reality of what's going on, who has now said publicly and openly that this is wrong. And while there are people out there who are giving him kudos, that support never should have happened in the first place. Like, that person's not an idiot. He's one of those people who is like, oh, I'm making millions and millions of dollars off of these people who are following me, and I can influence them into doing something. And look at what I just influenced them into doing. Helping to dismantle the United States of America. And now maybe he's feeling a little bit of the strain. I don't know. Or I don't know what he's doing, because I don't watch, I don't listen. I see snippets, and that's what I see. Subscribe to outlets that are reporting carefully and factually. Clickbait it's a thing, but it's not a headline. So if you click on a story, you need to dig into it, and you need to look at it in a few different places and get a few different perspectives. Dig deeper. Don't just believe what you see on the headline. Dig into it, right? Truth takes time. And if you know a journalist personally who is working their ass off and reporting on the news right now to be able to bring you the most accurate information, to bring you the truth, please take a minute to thank them. Because it's hard work. And it's hard to be. Ooh, breathe. It's hard to watch. And it's just hard. And we joke about, oh my gosh, it'll be over. At some point, this will be over. But at what point is it worth, your own mental health? At what point is it worth that? I don't know. So please say thank you to the people that you know, or to your favorite journalists. Send them a DM, say thank you, because they're really working really hard. Okay. Have hard conversations without performing them, right? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be big. It can be easy and intimate and small and very effective, right? Talk about what's happening with your family, with your kids, with your coworkers. It's not about winning an argument, you guys. It's about modeling critical thinking and empathy at the end of the day, right? It is okay to say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know. I say that every day. I don't know. I have no idea half the time. I don't know. But I do know that what is happening right now is not sitting right with me. And I know that it is wrong on multiple levels. And I'm willing to have a conversation about it because it is so important. It's okay to have those conversations because a lot of those people, it's like, how do we raise kids in this world right now? And I've said this before. My grandmother used to say I would never want to be raising children now. And that was back in like the 70s and 80s when I was a little kid, right? Back in the 1900s when the dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? And I think about how I'm parenting my children who are both young men now. And it has been a topic of conversation with me and my husband. It has been a conversation with our own children. And it is always about, it starts with kindness. And it starts with doing the right thing. And it starts with respecting other people, regardless of their race and their gender and their religion and their sexuality and their color and all of the things. It means being able to look at somebody and respecting them for who they are. They might not be a person that you want to be friends with, and that's okay. Don't be mean. And maybe you don't want to be friends with them because they have an opposing view, but listen to what their view is. And maybe there's a way that you can have a conversation around that view. And I know that it is very difficult to do that right now because our views are so polarizing and so opposite. And if there is still somebody who is standing out there watching all this stuff happen who thinks it's okay, I don't know that there is a conversation to be had, quite frankly and honestly. But if you see your leaders who are, who you once voted for, who you were considering voting for, who you thought had the same ideals and thought process as you and beliefs, change their minds and change their course about what is going on out there, then I have a glimmer of hope for you too. Protect your nervous system. And that also means helping, right? If you're helping yourself, that means you're helping others because you can't help others if you're not being helped yourself, right? So it is okay to step away from the doom scroll. It is okay to limit how often you consume content. It is okay to let yourself rest without feeling guilty. It is okay to do all of those things because at the same time, we are still having to run our lives. We don't get the luxury to stop. We don't get the luxury to say, oh, you know what? I can just take a break and go on vacation and sit in a tropical island and drink pina coladas on the beach all day. Because that's what I would love to do. But bills have to be paid and driveways need to be shoveled and kids need to be chauffeured and the dog need to go to the vet. I just gave you my to-do list from the last 2 days. And I know that yours is similar, right? Burned out people don't build better systems. Regulated people do. And I know it's easier said than done, but just give it a try, right? Set those boundaries, spend time with your family, go out and do something fun. Trust me, I know. But it's necessary. And it should be required, and you should make it a point to step away and find a way to give yourself time. I don't know what that time is. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's watching junky TV. Maybe it's getting a massage. Maybe it's do something for you every single day. And I stand by that. I stand by that. Channel your anger into something sustained. Outrage burns fast. Right? Change takes endurance. This is a marathon, not a sprint. This is going to take real work for any change to take place. So volunteer with organizations that are doing the work, right? Commit to an issue that is important to you instead of reacting to all of them. I sit on my local school board because education is important to me. And so many other things are important to me. So I sit on a few different boards in our town, but commit to the issue that you want to see change and you want to see things happen in a positive direction, right? That's important. So channeling your anger into something sustained. Turn your yelling into planning, organizing, and taking action because anger is fuel and direction turns it into momentum. Honor grief without forcing hope. You don't have to find the lesson in everything, right? Holding space for grief, yours or someone else's, is not weakness. It is honesty. And it is something that all of us need. Sometimes helping looks like sitting with discomfort and refusing to look away. We are all grieving right now for our country, for our citizens, and for what is yet to come. Because we see the writing on the wall that this is not over. Anticipatory grief is a thing, says this grief educator, right? I am a grief educator. I know about this stuff. It's not only for the expectation of the loss of a loved one. If you are struggling with the anticipated loss of somebody that you love that's coming up, in your future, I'm holding space for you. But it can also be about the expectation of what is next for what is to happen in our country and for the things that we could potentially lose. There is a grief that comes with that. And we're not going to know until we actually lose it. And those of us who are in this marathon are not willing to lose those things, our rights and our freedoms. So we are fighting for that and we are speaking out about it. But don't for 1 second believe that we are not grieving for it as well, because you best believe that we are. And finally, remember that this is about humanity and not headlines. At the center of every tragedy are people who loved someone and expected them to come home for dinner that night, right? Helping means keeping that truth front and center, even when the news cycle moves on, because you know it's going to go and there's going to be something new that comes along tomorrow, the next day, whatever. And while we're still keeping these people and these names out there circulating as we should be doing, don't forget that this is making sure that you don't forget about humanity. Keep that in the forefront of your mind. You don't have to carry everything or fix everything. I have said this before in past videos and past podcasts, and I probably have written about it, I'm sure. But a friend said something to me a few years ago, and I think about it every day, and I should have it turned into a plaque. She said to me, Krista, you can't save the world, but you can change it. And I do believe that. And I believe that because I do this every single day, and I work in nonprofit work every single day, and I sit on boards, and I volunteer in my own community. I see change happening. You can start small. Maybe that means learning a little bit more. Maybe it means supporting a family or an organization or a piece of journalism doing the work, right? Maybe it means having an honest conversation or stepping away from the noise to take care of yourself and your nervous system. There is no single right response to moments like these. Caring looks different for everyone. And what matters is not rushing past what you feel. We are living in a time where headlines don't always match our humanity. But that doesn't mean our humanity vanishes. It means we stand by it. And as always, you are allowed to feel what you are feeling, to question what you are seeing, and to give yourself space when it gets too heavy. Until next time, my yellers, stay curious, stay human, and do what you can when you can. That's enough. I love you. Mwah.